This guy, Thomas, is about to become a multi-millionaire, and he's gonna screw it up. Thomas is a 16-year-old kid from Philadelphia who's on the verge of striking it rich. His whole life is about to transform. It all begins one fateful morning in 1990, when a local businessman walks out of a bank with an eye-popping $25,000 in cash, which he just withdrew. As the businessman hops into his car and begins to drive away, out of nowhere, a vehicle packed with sticks crashes into him. Suddenly, one of the troublemakers jumps out and points a stick, aiming it right at him. Before anyone can react, there's a loud bang, and the businessman is shot in the chest. In the midst of the chaos, they grab all his cash and speed off. Meanwhile, Thomas is over at a youth center on the other side of town, and he's just filling out some forms. He was nowhere near the scene of the incident. For some reason that we still can't figure out, someone tips off the cops that Thomas was the one who pulled off that bank robbery, even though he was at the youth center the whole time. Next thing you know, they show up and arrest him. Now, poor 16-year-old Thomas is facing the possibility of life in prison, and he's absolutely freaked out. So his lawyer starts digging around for any evidence that could clear Thomas's name and prove his innocence. He stumbles upon a form that Thomas signed at the youth center the morning of the robbery. The best part? It has a timestamp on it. Plus, Thomas got his mom and sister, who can vouch for him. They were there with him that day and they saw him sign those papers. Fast forward to 1994, and Thomas is now 20 years old. He finally goes to trial, but things take a turn for the worse. For some reason, his mom and sister aren't called to testify, and just like that, he's hit with a life sentence. Thomas is crushed. His whole future feels like it's been ripped away. He can't just sit in a cell for the rest of his life. He's determined to do whatever it takes to reclaim his freedom. So, what's Thomas going to do now? He starts writing letters to anyone who might be able to help him, literally anyone who will pay attention. Fast forward to 2011, and during those 17 years, he reaches out to the Pennsylvania Innocence Project. So the Pennsylvania Innocence Project, which is basically a group that helps people who've been wrongfully convicted, starts looking into Thomas's case after he reaches out to them. They find some solid evidence, like a time-stamped form he filled out at the youth center that shows he wasn't even at the crime scene. Plus, they realize his mom and sister weren't called to testify during his trial. They really start pushing for Thomas, making his story public. And during their investigation, they uncover a bunch of stuff, like evidence from Thomas's trial that pointed to other suspects, but was kept hidden. With this info, they stepped in to help Thomas with free legal services and filed an appeal to reverse his conviction. Out of nowhere, the appeals court actually overturned it. So finally, in 2017, after 24 long years behind bars, Thomas was set free. Thomas is finally a free man after spending 24 years in prison. He went in at just 20 and now he's 43. What a journey. But despite all that time lost, he's happier than he's ever been. Things just got even better for Thomas. Now that he's out, he's able to file a lawsuit against the city of Philadelphia for his wrongful conviction. In 2020, they settled out of court, and he ended up getting $4.1 million. He's officially a millionaire now. Plus, he's got a new fiancée named Steph, and they're really happy together. It looks like Thomas is living the good life now that he's out, enjoying his time in Philadelphia with Steph and his newfound wealth. But for some reason, he feels like $4.1 million just isn't enough. He gets this wild idea to dive into the drug dealing scene, specifically with some white substance. It's like he's determined to become a big-time drug master, even though he's risking everything he's got. Tom, feeling like he needs to up his game, turns to his girlfriend Steph one day in 2022 and says, "Hey, can you help me find someone to sell drugs from me?" Steph agrees and introduces him to her childhood friend, Akeem. They strike a deal where Akeem will sell drugs for Thomas. He hands Akeem a sandwich bag filled with the substance and tells him, "Sell this for $1,200 and just bring me my share." So, Akeem takes the drugs from Thomas, but he either doesn't sell them or sells them and pockets the cash, instead of giving Thomas his $1,200 cut. When Akeem doesn't come through, Thomas gets really angry. A few days later, he's cruising around the neighborhood with Steph. Thomas casually suggests, "Hey, let's swing by Akeem's neighborhood and see if he's around." Steph replies, "Sounds good," completely unaware of the tension between them, or that Thomas has a short stick inside his hoodie. They cruise over to Akeem's area, and sure enough, they spot him out the window. Thomas tells Steph to pull over, and she does. He hops out of the car and runs up to Akeem, pulls out his shot stick. Bang, 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 Akeem becomes a non-living thing. Then, he rushes back to the car, jumps in, and yells at Steph to hit the gas. She floors it, speeding away from the scene. As they're driving home, Steph can't shake the thought that her fiancé might have just taken the life of her friend Akeem. She didn't see it happen, but she definitely heard the shots. Meanwhile, Thomas senses her suspicion and turns to her saying, "I can't go back to jail. I know where your family lives, so you better stay quiet." To make things even worse, he casually adds, "Akeem isn't the first guy I've taken out. He's actually the third." Steph starts to wonder if Thomas could have been the one who murdered that businessman outside the bank years ago. Maybe those timestamps on the paperwork were off, or maybe his mom and sister were just covering for him. Either way, she's terrified, and it's clear that Thomas is completely serious about not wanting to end up back in prison. So, Tom tries to hire a hitman to take out Steph so she won't snitch on him to the cops. But by that point, it's already too late, because Thomas had been talking about wanting to terminate Akeem with some people he knew, and one of them tipped off the police. So, boom, they arrest him. He ends up pleading guilty, and after spending 24 years in prison, he gets slapped with another 33 to 66 years on top of that. Like and subscribe for more true crime stories. This video was inspired by Ray William Johnson. Bye for now until next episode.